Welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Arthur Robotnik. Last time we took a look at Tekken 4, and this time we're going to take a little bit of a break from all the various fighting game reviews. So, for this review, we are going to be taking a look at the Dreamcast cult classic, Jet Set Radio, via the HD remaster. Before I get into this review, let me just say immediately, if you want to play this game, just buy the HD version on PS3, Xbox, or PC. Do not bother with the Dreamcast original for one simple reason. You can freely control the camera in the HD version with the right analog stick. Now, what does the Dreamcast controller lack? Ding, 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 ding! Correct answer. In order to change the camera in the Dreamcast version, you have to use the left trigger, which is also where your graffiti tag was mapped. The only advantage the Dreamcast version has is that it has Yappy Feet, which was cut from the HD version due to licensing issues, but other than that, it's a far superior experience of the HD remaster. With that out of the way, let's hop into the development. Jet Set Radio began development in mid-1999 from Smilebit, a Sega studio formed from members of Team Andromeda, the people who had made the cult classic Panzer Dragoon trilogy on the Sega Saturn, consisting of 25 young developers, with most of them being under the age of 25. When it was announced at the Tokyo Game Show in 1999, the game drew immediate media attention thanks to its cel-shaded graphics, which hadn't been done before in video games outside of extremely limited capacity in the little-known PS1 title Fear Effect. But this was the first game to fully use the feature. Director Masayoshi Kikuchi had initially had trouble directing the team due to little directing experience, and the visual style was decided before the gameplay, with Kikuchi still trying to figure out if it should be an adventure game or an RPG, though his superiors were not satisfied with any of his initial pitches. Artist Ryuta Ueda had a vision to make something cool and dealt with popular culture to contrast from their previous work on Panzer Dragoon, which was more fantastical in nature. Once Ueda drew artwork of a rollerblading punk with headphones, which would be the prototype for the game's protagonist Beat, did the game finally start to take a proper shape. Ueda joined Sega mainly because he was impressed with the international appeal of Sonic the Hedgehog, but he felt the Japanese industry in general relied too much on an oversaturation of anime and manga influences, and he hoped to create something that would break the mold. A major inspiration for the tone of the game would be the 1997 PS1 cult classic Parappa the Rapper, which he felt was one of the first games to deal with pop culture in a unique way, though he also felt like making what was a true game aimed at an older audience rather than a visual experience like Parappa was in his own eyes. He also took inspiration from the 1999 movie Fight Club to focus on an anti-establishment themes. Initially, this game was originally planned to be a skateboarding game, but was retooled into rollerblades due to issues with the leg animations on the skateboards. Since Jet Set Radio was also one of the first games to have a 3D open world, the dev team faced their biggest challenge implementing a breathing city on Dreamcast hardware. While Shenmue was also an open world game that came out around then, Jet Set Radio was trickier to implement thanks to that game having a much higher speed and action compared to Shenmue. The devs also wanted the game to be impossible to duplicate on the PS2, so they pushed the Dreamcast to its limits by having at least more than 16 NPCs on screen at a time with no lag, bright colors, and realistic shadows, which would have been harder to do on the PS2 due to having smaller memory. Though, considering the PS2 also gave us big games like San Andreas, I think it's safe to say the PS2 had the last laugh. The main setting of this game was inspired by Tokyo, but Sega ended up getting cold feet about the Japanese influence and requested some Western elements for the international releases. So the international versions had 2 extra stages modeled after New York City. Ueda was dissatisfied with this, as he felt it diminished the Japanese influence. The game was released on Japan on June 29, 2000, and was released in North America on October 31st, 2000, though they also had to give the game a name change to Jet Grind Radio thanks to a band at the time called Jet Set Satellite who held the trademark, and it was also released in Europe on November 24th, 2000 under the original name. On October 18, 2001, Sega re-released the game via Dreamcast Direct in Japan as Day Law Jet Set Radio, which contained bug fixes and the international content. This version of the game is what was used as the base for the HD version, which was released on September 18, 2012. When the game was originally released on Dreamcast, it had received critical acclaim for its presentation and original gameplay, but unfortunately did not sell very well at all. However, with the HD re-release, it gained a much-deserved second life, and finally got the sales figures it deserved. So now all sales figures from every platform total around 1 million units. Though the HD port received mixed reviews from critics, despite largely being the same, with critics feeling like the game has shown its age. Is this game still the classic it was 23 years ago, or has it aged poorly? Let's find out. The game takes place during the turn of the millennium with a fictional counterpart to Tokyo called Tokyo To. Okay? Totally different. Anyways, 2 of the biggest things in the city are rebellious punks on rollerblades known as Rudies by the people of Tokyo, and Jet Set Radio, a pirate radio station ran by a DJ named Professor K that plays nothing but funky fresh beats. These Rudies primarily skate around and tag the city in their own personal graffiti as a way to express themselves to the public. However, the Tokyo government and a financial conglomerate known as the Rokaku Group, which practically owns the city, joined forces to ratify the 21st Century Project, a law to increase productivity and to outlaw any forms of expression. As a result, police crackdowns on these Rudies have become more severe, with their head, Captain Onishima, who looks like Dirty Harry and an Inspector Zenigata had done a fusion dance, excitedly wanting them behind bars. One Rudy, Beat, decides to form his own gang, and he recruits two Rudies named Tab and Gum. After that, the story of the game begins proper, with 3 gangs fighting for the Tokyo streets. There's the Noise Tanks, a group of otaku who have Benten-cho, the city of the night. Then there's Poison Jam, a gang of horror movie buffs who have Kogane-cho, the city of sunset. And last but not least, the GGs, led by Beat, who have Shibuya-cho, the city of daylight. Shibuya-cho is just attacked by an unknown assailant, so the GGs go and reclaim their turf. Turns out, the ones that attacked Shibuya-cho wasn't either Poison Jam or the Noise Tanks, but a new gang known as the Love Shockers, a group of jilted lovers. The GGs then take back most of Shibuya-cho, the Love Shockers, going into hiding, so they go after the other turfs. Depending on the level the player picks, the GG's garage will either be flooded with frogs from Poison Jam if they pursue Benton first, or the Noise Tanks will steal the GG's pet dog, Potts, if they go after Kogane first. Although, Beat doesn't seem to be too bothered by it if you go by his expression. Throughout this, the GGs start recruiting more members, and the police start getting more desperate, even resorting to throwing the military at these punks. You know your police force isn't worth a damn if you have to resort in sending in Apache helicopters, and even they can't take out a mere graffiti artist. Hell, they do a better job of taking out the choppers than the choppers do at taking out the GGs. Eventually, the GGs corner Poison Jam and the Noise Tanks and defeat them in a duel, either having the frogs leave their hideout or rescuing Potts depending on the story route. After these two gangs are defeated, they also dropped a piece of a mysterious record, alongside Poison Jam getting abducted by a mysterious black sedan. Either that, or it was just a garbage collector. It's one cool garbage truck, alright. The GGs start to wonder if the Love Shockers have the final piece, so they give them chase throughout Shibuya-cho. Once the Love Shockers were defeated, they didn't have the final piece, but one of them dropped something major, a golden rhinoceros badge, which belongs to a mysterious syndicate of Yakuza known as the Golden Rhinos, who are rumored to have connections to the CEO of Rokaku, an eccentric man named Goju Rokaku, which any of my viewers that are familiar with Yakuza should know is the man that Kiryu saved on the Crapper. The Golden Rhinos have been erasing the GG's graffiti throughout the city in the meantime with various posters of the Rokaku. Before the GGs can tag up the streets again, they are approached by 2 American Rudies named Combo and Cube, who ask the GGs for their help looking for their missing but implied to be dead friend Coin. The GGs obviously have never heard of Coin before and are confused, but they agree to let them join GG if they pass their tests. Combo and Cube pass, which Beat allows them to join, as long as Combo explains what the hell's going on. Combo then mentions that 2 months prior, he was part of a 3-man gang in Grind City, a city in America, consisting of him, Cube, and Coin. One day, he found his turf in the Bantam Street area was covered up by artwork that mainly consisted of paintings of rhinos and bizarre symbols. Not only that, but Coin had been abducted, and his collection of records had been destroyed. Combo also noticed Golden Rhino sedans and members of the Golden Rhinos hanging out around the streets as if there's something they're after. Cube and Combo then go to investigate, and they find graffiti from Coin telling them to head to Grind Square to find more answers. Upon taking the fight to Grind Square, Combo discovers that the Grind Square is built by the Rokaku group, and he starts to have a feeling that the men in suits he's encountered have a connection to the Rokaku, and he finds the final piece of graffiti by Coin. Combo is a bit confused by the graffiti as it had a golden rhino painted there, alongside the words Jet Set Radio and a plane to Tokyo. Though Combo figures out the clue and decides to head to Tokyo and get help from the GGs. Back to the present, we find out the Golden Rhinos are in fact a secret branch of the Rokaku conglomerate, though anyone with half a brain could figure that out, and that they're trying to wipe out anyone hanging out on the streets. Not only that, but they evidently have a piece of the record, as they're hunting down the final 2 pieces to it. The big reason, as we find out, is that the record everyone's after is known as the Devil's Contract. A record rumored to be made by some insane sound engineer and supposedly has the power to summon a demon. While the GGs are tagging up over the Rokaku posters, someone managed to swipe their piece of the record and the GGs give chase. This leads the Rokaku to sick Poison Jam on them, though completely brainwashed. After the GGs duel Poison Jam again, they spill everything they know about the record and that Goji plans on summoning a demon to let him take over the world. The GGs then head to the Rokaku headquarters to stop Goji's plans. They destroy his turntable, and then Goji falls to his death, and freedom is returned to Tokyo, with his son taking over the Rokaku business. However, it turns out the rumors of the Devil's Contract are just complete bullshit, and it was just nothing more than a regular indie record, and that Goji just believed the rumors due to him being absolutely driven insane by his wealth. Kaba also rationalizes that the rival games to the GGs were also not too dissimilar to them after all, and were just people just trying to make sense of their own lives. Now then, the story is admittedly kinda dumb, but I feel that's intentional on its part. The game itself really doesn't take itself that seriously and just wants to have some fun, and I'm okay with that. It also helps that we have these cutscenes narrated by DJ Professor K, and this guy is, to put it bluntly, fucking awesome.
Hey out there, this is Tokyo's very own #1 pirate power station, Jet Set Radio! Over the hood, through the streets, and right into your brain. We're transmitting our signal straight to you. Y'all got your antennas on or what? Yeah, we're riding high in a smooth stream of supersonic sound. And I'm your captain and DJ, Professor K! Jet Set Radio! I'm hijacking the airways and terrorizing you with tunes because we're gonna turn these dirty streets into one big dance party! Jet Set Radio! This is Tokyo's guerrilla music broadcaster, Jet Set Radio! Let's go to the mailbag. A letter from Mr. Osaki asks, how do I get rid of these nasty roaches? Easy, just burn your house down! Martians come all the way to Earth just to listen to us. We're Tokyo's finest pirate radio, Jet Set Radio! Jet Set Radio! We got another letter from Osaki. He says, I burned my house down. What should I do now? How should I know, fool?
He steals the show so much, and if they ever make a new game, they better have Billy Brown reprise his role as DJ Professor K, as this guy brings life to this character that I don't think anyone else can. Not to say that the other characters aren't cool either, and while most of them are just blank slates, it's made up for by all of them being the epitome of late 90s, early 2000s style, but in a way that still feels cool and timeless decades later, with unique designs that make them all stick out. Though it's helped by the amazing presentation, which, holy fuck, this game epitomizes style in a way that hadn't been done before. While this game's look may feel passé by today with games like Hi-Fi Rush and Persona 5 existing, let me just put it to rest. Those games wouldn't exist in their current forms if it wasn't for Jet Set Radio being such a trailblazer. As stated earlier in the development history, this game was the first game to primarily utilize cell shading, and it still looks pretty good 23 years later. A few models do show their age by today's standards, like Captain Onishima having a mainly stationary face, but the cool art style helps take the age off. It's also helped by the graffiti designs being the epitome of cool, which is also helped by the tags being done by reputable graffiti artists, most notably a good chunk of them coming from Eric Hayes, who had previously helped contribute with album artwork for the Beastie Boys and Public Enemy. If none of these graffitis also tackle your fancy, you can also make your own graffiti using the Create tool, but this tool kinda sucks. You can also mod in your own custom graffiti in the PC version, so you can tag Tokyo in a grand variety of curse shit if you feel like it. There is also the sound design, and now it's time to talk about the CEO of Funky Fresh Beats, Mr. Family Guy Funky Moments himself, Hideki Naganuma, who made his debut here, and what a debut it is. While this guy is certainly a goofball if you follow his Twitter, do not let his eccentricities beguile this man's composition skills. Which this guy is damn good at his job. What Buckethead is to rock and roll, Hideki Naganuma is to techno, and I do not mean that as a hyperbole. This guy is a freaking madman when it comes to his technical genius. Let Mom Sleep, That's Enough, Rocket On, Grace and Glory, and Sweet Soul Brother have left their mark on gamers that have touched this game, and it is seen with his future endeavors. I cannot wait to hear his contributions in Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. The other music in this game is also really good, where Naganuma recruited some indie artists to help contribute some sick music as well, and Sega went and licensed some songs from Japanese artist David Soul and Guitar Vader to help complete the soundtrack. I also find it very amusing that the song Super Brothers is about Mario when you listen to the lyrics. Come on, give a listen. When it came time to export the game, Sega went and licensed some music from Western artists, and these tracks also kick ass. Mostly. For all Western regions, we got Improvised by the J5 and Patrol Knob from Mixmaster Mike, which fit the game's aesthetic very well. For songs exclusive to the Americans, we got Dragula by Rob Zombie, Slow by Professional Murder Music, and without a doubt the worst song of the game, Just Got Wicked by Cold. The other songs are great, Just Got Wicked fucking sucks. I'm sorry to all Too Cold fans out there. They should have tossed this song out and thrown in Last Resort by Papa Roach instead. No, I am not kidding. I am serious on this one. Just Got Wicked fucking sucks. Though for the European region, we got some more funky influences, where we got Recipe for the Perfect Afro by Featurecast, Funky Plucker from Semi-Detached, and Many Styles from Obi-Wan. These tracks would eventually see their way into De La Jet Set Radio and the HD version from both regions, though Many Styles would be omitted from the HD version due to licensing issues similar to Yappy Feet. They should have not bothered licensing Just Got Wicked and instead got Yappy Feet, but this is the world we live in, we can't have nice things, people. Now onto the gameplay, and pegging this game's genre down is gonna be tough as Jet Set Radio is unique. That's not faint praise by any means, it's just really hard to narrow down a genre for this as we don't really have any real clones of Jet Set Radio outside of Hover and the upcoming Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. On the surface, this game appears to be nothing more than one of the many imitators going after the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, which everyone wanted a piece of that pie at the time, and it's easy to see that, as everyone's rollerblading around and there's plenty of tricks to do, which the level design complements very well with a lot of cool spots to trick from, although Grind City can be a bit of a pain. However, when you actually sit down to play the game for 5 minutes, that viewpoint will fade away fast, as it's very obvious that the rollerblading is just there to spice up the gameplay, and the tricks are just there to add some cool variety to the actual gameplay, where Jet Set Radio in actual practice is a platformer. You can dash by tapping the right trigger, and you can tag up the streets by pressing the left trigger. Most of your tricks are done automatically after you either get enough speed and airtime off of a ramp, or by jumping after a grind. The physics are very competent, though extremely heavy, so the control takes some time to get used to, but it's very adjustable. And characters with great technique stats do handle much better, so if you're having trouble with the controls, might I suggest using characters like Tab or Mew to help get better accustomed to the controls. You can also find optional graffiti souls throughout the levels to unlock new graffiti tags, though a few of them are placed in devious locations, such as this jack-off in Bantam Street. Your main goal in Jet Set Radio is to go out and tag specific locations marked with red arrows where enemy graffiti is located with your own graffiti, but you can also tag green arrows on certain levels to obtain additional points. With normal tags, you only need to tap the graffiti button once, but for large and extra large tags, you'll have to input motion commands similar to executions in classic God of War. This is where the graffiti stat for characters come into play. Characters with a low graffiti stat get easier patterns, but they get the least amount of points from these tags. By comparison, a high graffiti stat has much harder patterns, but they get the most amount of points from a full tag. The graffiti stat also comes into play with how much cans someone can carry, where the higher the stat, the less you can carry, with one exception, which I'll get into in a bit. For the beginning, you're usually safe, but once a few tags are cleared, the cops start marching in, and once a few more are done, they'll send in stronger reinforcements, such as the first level where Captain Onishima comes in to back up the police. Onishima is the first major obstacle to an extent, as he's the first of many enemies that will attempt to deal with the GGs using lethal force. As while the regular cops may just try to subdue the GGs by arresting them, Onishima brings a fucking revolver. However, he usually takes a second to actually fire the damn gun, which teaches you a way to get the hell out of there, and to usually run away from the cops whenever possible, by getting to a spot they can't reach, which also gets them off your tail. A good tip for this game is to take care of large and extra large tags first, so that way the cops won't be a major obstacle during those larger tags. The cops also start sending in more ways to deal with the GGs, such as a SWAT unit that deploys tear gas to slow down the GGs and deal damage, police dog units that are way faster than the standard cops, a parachute squad equipped with machine guns, goddamn tanks, and attack helicopters equipped with rockets. However, as stated earlier, the choppers aren't much of a threat. Good thing this is a work of fiction, and cops in real life would never use excessive force. It would never happen. Once you get past the first chapter, the Golden Rhinos take over as the enemy faction, and these guys don't fuck around. The ones with guns usually stay in place, whereas the ones with knives will chase your character around, and these guys are much more persistent than the cops. To make matters worse, these guys also send in unique assassins for each level they occupy. These guys really don't fuck around. Assassin number 5 is the first one you'll meet. This guy is not only extremely agile, but he has a whip with extremely good range. Assassin number 6 isn't too bad, but he can fuck up a grind, but he's more of a nuisance than anything else with his electric powers. Assassin number 4 consists mainly of suicide bombers. They will try to tackle and blow you up to Kingdom Come like a fucking Cybermen. Not to mention these assholes planted bombs all over Shibuya, but they'll make little beeping noise, so if you hear it, get the hell away from them before you make your tag. Assassin number 1 usually just sits around guarding large and extra large tags, but his AI is easy to avoid, and he's easy to lure away from the tags, so he ain't no biggie. But he'll leave when Assassin number 3 comes in with his fucking flamethrower, but as long as you aren't stupid, you won't be torched. However, I saved the worst for last. Assassin number 2. These fuckers have jetpacks, so there's no safe place to run from them outside of the routes to other areas. And if you don't take care of larges or extra larges before these assholes show up, they can and will interrupt your tag with bullets. Now, with most of these hostile enemies, a simple tag to their leader can make things easier on you, such as tagging Onishima's jacket, but doing that with Assassin number 2 is a goddamn death wish, as he's always flying and rarely on the ground with his guard down. My advice is just to run the fuck away from these guys and take care of the large and extra large tags first in fight or flight before these assholes show up. It'll make your life much easier, trust me on that one. As you progress through the game, Rudies will come up to the garage and challenge the GGs to either a series of stunts or races. And if you can beat their challenge, they'll join you. Most of these are pretty harmless, but fuck Yo-Yo's race, this asshole is a fucking brick. If it wasn't for his stats being really damn good for high scores, I would wish this fucker to die in a fire. Whenever you corner a gang's territory, you also will have a boss fight with each gang, though calling it a fight is generous. You have to tag each gang member 10 times, making a total of 30 tags you need. It can be a little obnoxious at first, but once you get the hang of it, these pose no challenge whatsoever and make for an easy jet ranking. Oh yeah, let me talk about that for a second, since this gives me a good but really awkward segue. At the end of each level, you'll be ranked on your performance, with Pedal being the lowest rank and Jet rank being your highest rank. These usually are determined by your final score, but having a good time, most of your stamina intact, lots of leftover cans, not fucking up any tags, and getting most optional tags if levels have them, and a good amount of tricks will help you get a Jet ranking. My go-tos for Jet ranks are usually Gum or Yo-Yo, but I can do it with most of the cast. If you Jet rank all of the main levels for a district, you'll unlock that corresponding gang, which is pretty cool incentive to go after the Jet rankings, as it's pretty rad. Also, the noise tanks can carry 50 cans, which breaks this game wide open, especially for fight or flight. Hell, if you Jet rank all of Grind City, you'll unlock Goji no Kaku for regular play, which is pretty amusing, though his power set's a fucking lie. He may have a maxed out health bar, but he takes 3 times the damage of a normal character. However, you cannot play as him until you finish the game once. Speaking of the end game, the final level is a joke. While Grace and Glory here makes it feel pretty climactic, the actual level is pretty fucking anticlimactic in practice. All you have to do is just do 4 extra large tags over the occult symbols on Rokaku's turntable while dodging the Demon Rhino, then tag Gochi in the head once. That's it, that's the end of the game. The level right beforehand with the rematch against a brainwashed Poison Jam was more challenging than this. Hell, the game itself isn't very long, with your first playthrough probably taking about 6, maybe 3 hours. But thankfully, this game came prepared. Once you finish the game once, you unlock a New Game Plus, where you can play through the game with every character you unlock, which helps extend replay value a lot. And the game itself, you can pick most of your missions at any order in certain bits of the game, so there's different ways to get to the end. During New Game Plus, you can also use any of the GGs on the Grind Square levels, whereas on your first playthrough, you can only use Combo and Cube for it. It was also the only way to get Jet rankings to the original version, before the HD remaster patched in an option to try again if you weren't satisfied with your rank. If you finish the game once and you have all Jet rankings, and you had Potts kidnapped during your playthrough, a noise tank will come and challenge you once you get to Chapter 3. After you complete his challenges, Potts will be unlocked as a playable character, and he's certainly an amusing joke character, though he takes 3 times less damage than a regular character, and his technique stat's pretty good. There's also plenty of optional challenge levels: Jet Crush, Jet Technique, and Jet Graffiti. Jet Crush is a simple race through the streets of Tokyo, similar to the unlocks for Yo-Yo, Combo, and Slate. Jet Technique is just a score attack where you rack up as many points by doing grinds and various tricks, alongside the occasional small tag. Jet Graffiti is a mode where you combine a good amount of tricking and graffiti tagging to get a high score before the time runs out. They're all fun little distractions, but they tend to repeat the one song that plays for it when the level loads up, so if you don't like the song it selects, restart until you get the song you want. Despite the game's age and some of the flaws that are more apparent once the cell shading's novelty wore off, Jet Set Radio is still a fun time, and a game I can't recommend more to anyone, as it's absolutely worth a playthrough. There's still barely any games like it outside of its own sequel, and the odd spiritual successor here and there, which I cannot wait for Bomb Rush. Yes, the controls are heavy, but they can be dealt with, and while some of the graffiti souls can be obnoxious to collect, they're ultimately optional collectibles that are just there to get new tags. With that, my final score for Jet Set Radio is an 8 out of 10. That was a fun little diversion from all the various fighting games we had covered. So, you might expect me to do Tekken 5 next, but that one's gonna have to wait a little bit. I still kind of want to take a smaller break from fighting games, and due to an announcement from Limited Run Games, I feel like taking a look at the Gex trilogy, so we can see why this is a big cult classic. This is Dr. Arthur Robotnik. If you enjoy my content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help this video out. And if you want to, feel free to donate to my Patreon so we can get better equipment and make better reviews down the line. Have a good day, everybody.
Y'all ready to get funky?
The most important part of dance is music. So now let us listen to the music and identify the beats.
1, 2, 3.
But that was too soft.
What's that? You think I just made all that up? Ha 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 ha! Sure, okay. But watch out. Someone just might have their sights on Shibuya Cho again. On the street, there's no such thing as